Well, thank you, I must say, for joining us from wherever you are. We're coming to you live from our studios here in Kokomlemle. Our digital address, as you know, 09925339. Our top stories this hour. Majority MPs in Parliament have described as mischievous, useless and premature a motion by Boko Central MP Mahama Yariga seeking that the House rejects the constitutional instrument that will allow the EC to register new voters based on a new set of rules. And 173 new coronavirus cases as 1,898 recover. Details coming up as government denies reopening of schools soon, asking organizations with such concerns over easing the restrictions too quickly to help identify ways of accepting and living the new normal. And police in Tema seeks court permission to isolate some inmates who have tested positive for coronavirus, as 10 of them are detected in Ashaiman and Bone police stations. This afternoon, we focus on how to social distance in overcrowded prisons like in Sewam. We come to Accra and we go to Tema prisons. These are top stories this hour. My name is Gipsy Andopia. Join us on DSTV 421. We are also on your digital TV and you can access it for free. We're streaming live on YouTube and you can send us messages on our WhatsApp platform. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest. Welcome to the details of those stories now. Ghana could be reopened fully by the end of month as government continues to engage interest groups on the way forward. Other countries' COVID-19 case count currently stands at 6,269 with 1,898 recoveries. 31 others have died from the disease. At a meeting with chiefs from Kome and Shame in the Anlo traditional area, Shime in the Anlo traditional area in the Volta region, President Akufo-Addo said the low number of deaths and positive recoveries give hope that the country will soon be out of the pandemic.
With these difficult matters that confront us with the presence of this virus, it's been brought a difficult period in the life of the Ghanaian people. But we have, as men, to stand up, as people, to stand up and find a way to confront it. And as I've been saying, the most effective methods for us to deal with this virus is our own self-discipline, the protocols of hygiene, social distancing, not shaking hands, protecting ourselves, wearing the face mask. These are the short, medium, and long-term solutions to the proliferation of the virus. And I'm very happy to see that I'm preaching to the converted, the way in which you're comporting yourself that you have been here. We need to get this message out to everybody in Ghana so that the entire country is aware of the measures that we need to take to protect ourselves from the virus from spreading. If we adhere to these protocols, the hygiene, the social distancing, the washing of the hands, sanitizers, the use of them, I'm confident that we will overcome this virus. But we need to work at it and work at it together.
So how about we take a very quick look at the figure of our cases so far. So this is the latest figure, the latest number of cases that Ghana has recorded, 6,269. That's the total confirmed cases as of today. And the breakdown of those figures, 31 people have died, like I indicated earlier, but 1,898 have recovered. So let's continue with what we're doing about this. Government says it is expecting organized groups which have concerns regarding ongoing talks towards easing of restrictions at some points to channel their apprehensions towards how the nation can effectively protect citizens from the virus. Some teacher unions have already been in an outright manner kicked against any move to have schools reopened at some point. The pre-tertiary education unions say current class sizes in many schools makes any such thought of opening schools with social distancing enforced simply impossible. Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah says government wants the discussion to be focused on how the country can we all in the country can agree essentially to live to ensure that the virus does not spread much, since it is here to stay.
And therefore, if you hear the president talk about living with the virus, or if you hear us using the expression, this is what we mean, and this is what we ask of you to help us to do to have this broader national conversation and get as many perspectives as possible. Also to mention that it is not as though there are some specific timelines ahead of us to do this, but we must start confronting this reality, start having this conversation, even determining what time is a good time to come up with this. Consultations on what it takes to reopen schools as part of the potential easing of the general restrictions that we are living under are what have started. Now, we notice that there are a lot of stakeholder groups and parents and unions that appear a bit apprehensive since those reports came out. It is okay to be apprehensive. Indeed, if we were not apprehensive, then we will not be sensitive to the challenges of the time. It is okay to be apprehensive. It is okay to have worries. It is okay to wonder how this will be done. But we must channel those apprehensions and those worries towards answering the question, what does it take? What should be the indication of a good time? What will be the best way to protect teachers, non-teachers, students, if we are to open up at some point? Government believes that we as a nation can do many things that we put our minds to. And yes, this is a complex global problem, but if we put our shoulders to the wheel, the best of our creative juices and the positive spirits that we have can help us come to the line of best fit on what to do if we decide to ease some of these restrictions. So it's a good time to start having this conversation. We invite the nation to join in this conversation. We particularly want to ask you, our colleagues in the media, to also, as you've done so far, and you've done a fantastic job, play your part by also getting all of these recommendations and ideas come to the fore. What does it take if and when we get to that point that we want to ease the restrictions? While the virus is still in the global ecosystem, while they haven't found an antivirus yet, and while no society can be in lockdown or restrictions in perpetuity, that line of best fit of what does it take to ease as much as we can and still protect as much as we can. And that's a conversation that we're inviting the nation to.
Well, do you have any ideas how we can begin to live with this new normal? Send me your thoughts and your comments on our WhatsApp platform. Now, the Information Minister also says that government is yet to complete the process needed to decide whether or not to use a medicine developed in Madagascar said to be a cure for COVID-19.
That Madagascar has reached out to us with their supposed or their suggested cure, and that we will test it through FDA and Center for Plant Medicine before making a decision. The brief as I have it is that we have not received this supposed cure from Madagascar. There are also local offers, local Ghanaians who say they have some sort of preparations that they believe can cure. The Center for Plant Medicine and the FDA stand by to test whatever of these supposed cures are available. And after those tests have been done, a decision can be made by the clinicians. So I just want to be clear, the reports that Ghana has requested for, or that we have received and we are testing a cure from Madagascar, is incorrect. What we have said is that they have reached out to us, as they have done to many other countries, that they have something that they believe can cure. What we will do is that we will test it when it is made available to us. We have said that if indeed they have a cure, no challenge, they should let us have it and we will test it and see. At the same time, there are many other local persons who say they have a cure. The same testing regime, FDA and Center for Plant Medicine will test it and make a determination. So please, let's be clear, we have not requested for it, neither have we received any. So just to clear up that reportage. There's also a second reportage I need to clear up, that schools are to reopen soon. We have observed from our Media Monitoring Center a lot of reports that say that government says that schools are to reopen soon. With the greatest of respect, it is not correct. Government is not saying that schools are to reopen soon. What we are saying is that consultations on what it takes to reopen schools is what we are currently engaged in. If there's been a misspeak or something of the sort, just to put it in its right context.
Well, some of you are sending in some messages. We'll still continue with those. But this one says, government suggestion that we should learn to live with COVID-19 is defeatist and suicidal. We can't live with a pandemic, but you fight to defeat it. Countries are doing it, and we also can. We can't be only country declaring to live with it. BB is sending that from North Kanishi. Well, the Ghana Health Service has been speaking about the next steps in terms of fighting this disease. The country's case counts, as you know, so far, it keeps going up. We're over 6,000 at the moment. Dr. Patrick Abuaje is the Director General of the Ghana Health Service. Here's what he said.
As at the last time we presented here, between the 18th and 19th of May, a total of 173 new cases has been recorded in Ghana. 46 of these cases have come from Greater Accra, 6 from Eastern Region. Central has recorded 27 new cases. Western Region also increased by 59 cases, and followed by Ashanti with 35 new cases. At the same period, we have also recorded an additional 144 recoveries since the last update. And so the total count for recoveries now stands at 1,898, bringing our recovery rate to about 30.2%. But I must let you know that we have a large pool of people waiting for their second test, and I believe that in the next few days, the new numbers will be added. This has come out of let me get back. So our total cumulative count of cases from the first to the last now is 6,269 cases with 31 deaths. In the same period, up to now, we've done about 187,929 tests, 49,661 coming from the routine surveillance, and another 138,000 plus coming from the enhanced contact tracing. We have so far recorded 31 deaths, as you have seen on the website. Of this number, 8 of them are over 65 years and more. We have 3 who are under 20, mainly 9, 6, among other things. Greater Accra obviously accounts for the larger number of deaths, accounting for about 20 out of the 31 deaths have come from Greater Accra, especially when you look at the fact that about 80, close to 90% of our cases are in Greater Accra. 17 of them are males and the rest are females. And of the 31, 28 have some comorbidity, that is, they have some other illness that also contributed to the outcomes that we got.
Dr. Patrick Abuaje there with the details of what our case count is at the moment. and what it entails. In the meantime, the whole municipal hospital in the Volta region has partially suspended operations at its accident and emergency unit and outpatient department as well after 2 patients tested positive for COVID-19. This was to make way for disinfection exercise at the 2 departments to prevent possible spread of the virus. According to hospital authorities, operations at the department would resume fully by Saturday. Our correspondent Fred Kwame Asare is joining me right now for a quick update on that. Hello, Fred.
Yeah, hello, Gifty.
Fred, so tell us, how did this happen and when?
Well, I was at the facility earlier today, and then they confirmed the case to me. This happened yesterday. I was told that 2 patients reported at the facility on different occasions, but that was yesterday. One came for a review. She was treated for malaria, but then when she reported this, they realized that she had some symptoms and that they should conduct a COVID-19 test on her. Then she tested positive. Another person was also, or the other person was referred from a smaller facility who also reported at the whole teaching hospital. And then upon further treatment, they tested her for COVID-19, and then she also tested positive. So at the moment, the 2 have been moved to the whole isolation center where they are receiving treatment.
What do we know about these 2 patients, apart from where they were referred to, from where they were referred, I should say? Do we have any other information about them at all?
No, well, authorities are tight-lipped on releasing information on the 2 patients. All they told me was that one earlier visited the facility for a malaria treatment, and then the other was referred from a smaller facility.
So the hospital at the moment, the emergency center, the OPD have all been closed down. Does it mean that there's nothing going on at the hospital at the moment? It's closed to any other patient?
Exactly. When I visited the facility earlier today, both departments, that is, like you rightly mentioned, the accident and emergency department and then the outpatient department were closed. I saw one guy who was undertaking a disinfection exercise. When I spoke to the authority, they mentioned that the exercise would go on the whole of today, and that after 24 hours, they would resume operations at both departments. But at the moment, both departments are not operating. I was also told that staffs at both units, that is, the OPD has about 17 health workers, and then the accident and emergency unit had 16. All these staffs have been asked to self-isolate, and then also samples have been taken for COVID-19 test, and then they are to self-isolate for 14 days.
So this is an issue of main parts of a hospital being closed down, and a good number of health professionals also having to self-isolate. Certainly, this is going to take a toll on healthcare delivery in the region.
Exactly, Gifty. When I spoke to the man in charge, he told me that, well, they have no option but to ask the staff to self-isolate, with the sense that they don't know their status, and that perhaps if maybe they are infected, there would be a possible spread. But then he also mentioned that, be it as it may, they have to realign their staff at the moment. Perhaps those who are at other departments would have to be moved to the emergency and then the OPD department to ensure that they are able to deliver services to clients that would visit the facility when the departments are when the department resumed operation.
Yeah. Before you go, give me a quick idea how many people, you know, an estimated number that depends on this health facility for healthcare.
Well, it is one of the biggest facilities in the whole municipality. I should see people in neighboring communities and who actually visit this facility. So, on the average, about 300 to 400 patients would visit this facility daily for healthcare delivery. So this suspension of operations at the OPD is actually going to affect health care delivery in the whole municipality. But then authorities are assuring that by close of tomorrow, the place will be ready for operations, and that people or the public shouldn't be terrified or panicked. But then when they resume work, everything will be okay, and that they can visit the facilities for treatment.
Kwame, thank you very much. I see from the visuals that we have at the moment some disinfection going on already, which tells us that it has started.
Exactly, it has started.
Fred Kwame Asare is our correspondent in the Volta region there, joining us with details. The whole municipal hospital has been shut down for disinfection after two COVID-19 cases were reported there. So you can imagine the effect on healthcare delivery. I mean, this hospital is closed for the entire day. So if you have an issue, if you have a condition today, where do you go to? The health personnel have been told to go into self-isolation. This is why we must all take this seriously and do what we ought to do as we look to reduce the spread of the disease. I'll move on with COVID-19 cases, but here are some of your messages. This one says, I entreat government to seek broader consultations before reopening schools in order to avoid infecting students and teachers. Akele Vincent sends this from Navrongo. And this one says, government suggestion, right, I think I read this one already. It says, I'm personally satisfied with the measures put in place so far for coronavirus to be out of here in Ghana. We have to change our attitudes and always observe the safety protocols. From Hart in Yendi. Thank you for sending that and acknowledging it. If you are in your neighborhood, you want to spread the message across yourself. The devastating effects we cannot handle. Now, leader of Ghana's COVID-19 test team, Dr. Samuel Kaba Akoria, has issued a word of caution to Ghanaians and COVID-19 recovered patients that they should not be complacent because there could be reactivation of the virus among patients who have been declared recovered. Now, the health expert has also reiterated concerns of the possibility of getting reinfected even after testing negative for the virus. Dr. Kaba also announced a strategy to trace, capture, and retreat recovered patients who may suffer reactivation or test positive once again when he spoke with my colleague Latif Idris. Listen.
Let's say if we have 50 cases today, positive, our figure will jump by 50. But our recoveries will still be down because until the 18 days time I just spoken of, you will not get any recovery.
So we can have cases recorded every single day, 50-50 without recovery, yes, until day 18, then we get recoveries from
exactly.
Okay. So it's good we are having a lot more recoveries, but we've seen cases in South Korea. You mentioned South Korea, and I'm going there to use it as an example. They also recorded huge recoveries. Then days after, there was the issue of reinfection. Do we have a strategy in place in Ghana to ensure that if, and that's not something we are hoping for, if these recoveries few days later go back to get reinfected, is there a strategy in place to quickly move in, get them and treat them again?
Okay, so absolutely yes. It wasn't only South Korea. There were other countries who also brought out papers about people who have been reinfected. But they weren't certain whether it was actually reinfection or reactivation of the virus, or they were never actually cured. Those things keep remaining. But one day, they came out to say that it was not reinfection. Actually, there was an error in the test they had conducted. It kept that matter to rest. However, with COVID, anything can happen. You can have people who can be reinfected. There are still people talking about it. The good news is the following, that in Ghana, when you are diagnosed, you're just like any other patient. We have all the data about you. You know, when you get to the hospital, you put your number, where you stay, your next of kin. We have all that. 2, when we say you have recovered, that is not the end of the story between you and us. There is a long relationship. And that relationship is that first week, you come for review. Second week, you come for review. And in 1 month time, you come for review. The next good news is that most of our cases, sometimes we look at them if we are not too satisfied with your recovery status, not with the test, but maybe you've recovered, you have 2 negative, but physically you are not that strong, we do x-rays, chest x-rays, and in some we even do CT scan, right, to make sure that your chest is clean and you're actually going home. So there is that strategy in place that builds that relationship between a doctor and a patient.
Have we had any reinfection in Ghana as we speak?
You know, so far, till date, we've not had a case come back. You see, the protocol is so strict that we are using in Ghana, that you do the first test, do the second test, and then say goodbye. But there is one thing we should understand. We've had cases whereby after the 14 days, you do the first test, it comes negative. You do the second one, it comes positive. We will keep you until we get the 2. So that has dragged us to sometimes even 1 month. But now what is happening here is this. It is too early to be talking of reinfection because we got hit on the 12th of March, right? And today is May 15 or 16. So what is happening is that we are just 2 months, right? And those that we've had who have recovered, which means they are less than 2 months recovered. And those who have given us such issue because of the double testing for the 2 negatives, we've been able to avoid that. But it is possible that such a thing can happen. It's possible. With COVID, as I say, it's a learning process, and we cannot say that it might not happen.
That's Dr. Akoria there, speaking to my colleague Latif Idrisu. So just because you got off with a negative result doesn't mean that you're all immune. You need to be careful and not to be complacent. Let's go to Parliament now. Majority MPs there have described as mischievous, useless and premature a motion by Boko Central MP Mahama Ayariga seeking that the House rejects the constitutional instrument that will allow the Electoral Commission to register new voters based on a new set of rules. The new CI, if passed by Parliament, will remove the voter's ID card as a registration document for a new voter ID card. But then it will allow for the use of the Ghana card. The CI needs 21 continuous sitting days to mature, and today is day number 10. The notice of motion filed by Mr. Ayariga is asking the House to reject the Public Elections Registration of Voters Amendment Regulation 2020, that is CI 126, even before the Subsidiary Legislation Committee submits a report on the CI to the floor. NPP MP for Kwankwe Central, Patrick Yabuama, and NPP MP for Sekondi, Andrew Ejapa Mesa, say the motion will be shot down by the majority.
Create some confusion in the minds of Ghanaians, but it's going to be, I think it's premature because I don't see the basis for his application and how he's going to succeed in this application. He's not going to succeed. So maybe it's part of the NDC's grand scheme of making the whole electoral process and our quest to have a peaceful general election come 2020, December 7th. Peaceful. One, he's not challenging the EC's power to amend the CI. He's not challenging it. He's just asking for a rejection. And what will be the basis for your rejection? We are all members. Ayariga is not a member of the Subsidiary Legislative Committee. We are members. We've sat down, we've gone through the CI. Unfortunately for the NDC, the chairman of the committee is a former Deputy Attorney General, Honorable Dominic Ahine. We sat through with EC officials 2 or 3 times. We were agreed. It's been laid and it's going through the constitutional process as set out by Article 11.7. So I don't understand the mischief that he's seeking to foment.
But to the legal basis, Parliament has admitted the laying based on which it was referred to the committee. if someone files a motion asking the House to reject the document, couldn't the premise be that that's substantially what he wants the House to reverse its decision on? The whole idea that you're accepting the document and referring it to subsidiary legislation, and not exactly having to wait for the document to mature before you can bring in a motion to vacate that approval that the House gave.
I don't begrudge that premature stance, but I'm saying he cannot succeed. That's what I want to tell you, because there is no substance in what I read from on the face of the motion that he submitted. On the face of it, I don't think Ayaga is going to succeed. We are determined and we are going to support every constitutional process towards a free, fair general elections come December.
For you, you are determined to get this document approved regardless of the objections that the minority MPs are raising?
I am determined to support every constitutional process as set out by the Constitution towards a free and a peaceful general election.
Let's get live to Parliament now. Our correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is standing by to give us some more. Hello, Joseph. Joseph, so let's start with the basis for this motion. The CI is already 10 days. What basis did Mr. Ayariga, upon what basis did he bring this motion to Parliament today?
He thinks that there's a case of discrimination with the decision to allow for a situation where you can't go ahead and register for the new voter's ID card with a passport or an NIA card, but per the CI you can't use the birth certificate to do that. He thinks it's very discriminatory because even the passport can only be gained on the basis of having a birth certificate. He also is of the very firm conviction that there is a situation of Ghana trying to deal with a pandemic based on which a number of restrictions have been introduced, and so what the EC should be focused on doing is taking advantage of the current register and going ahead to do a form of a cleanup instead of trying to go through the process of getting a whole register done, which could in a certain way expose Ghanaians to the issues having to do with COVID-19. These are two and more reasons that he says are the basis for which he wants Parliament to consider the decision, the motion that he's actually seeking to move, so that then the whole CI will actually be rejected by Parliament. I've been seeking clarity from him further on why he's doing this and what his expectations are, because this will require more than 2/3 of MPs backing this particular motion, and as we heard from Patrick Yabuama, he will not have the support of the majority. But he says even if that support doesn't come, well, the case is being made and he will be glad that Ghanaians hear their side of the story.
Should have been taken on how to treat the motion, and I hope to hear something from the majority leader tomorrow when he is reading the business statement. At that time we'll know what the fate of the motion is so far, and we can take it up from there.
Your colleague Patrick Yabuama, who is on the Subsidiary Legislation Committee, makes a case that this is virtually dead on arrival because there is no decision that the House has taken on that CI yet, which everyone is waiting for when the report of the committee comes and after the 21 days period expires. So currently, there's no decision that the House has taken based on which you can say you are moving a motion to either vacate or support. What do you say to such a rebuttal to your move?
My brother, Honorable Patrick Boama, misunderstands the process. If you recall, I was the chairman of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee, and I know how it functions. When an LI or CI is brought and laid in the House, whether or not you write a report, whether or not you take any action, doesn't really matter. After 21 days, automatically it comes into force. Whether the subsidiary legislative committee meets, does not meet, presents a report or does not present a report, after 21 days, a CI that has been validly laid will automatically come into force. Usually the committee meets and reviews it and then makes some recommendations. But because under our constitution, you cannot even amend it. You cannot amend, you either accept it in whole or you reject it outright in whole. So because you cannot amend it, what the Subsidiary Legislation Committee has been doing over the years has been to consider a CI before it is laid. Because when it is laid, you can't amend it. But the proponents of the CI or the LI will bring it to you before they lay it. And then as a committee, you review it. And if there are changes that ought to be made, you make the recommendation to them. They go back, they effect the changes, then they now bring it to you, and then they lay it in Parliament. When they lay it, very often what really happens is that you take what is laid, and then you just write a report on it. Because you've already worked on it before it is laid. So that's what we call the pre-laying, consideration. So that is what really has been happening. After it has been laid, there's nothing you can do about it, either to accept it in whole or to reject it.
So for you, there is no.
So there's no alternative. The committee can decide not to meet. They can decide not to present a report. Parliament can decide not to debate it. After 21 days, the CI will automatically become law.
So that's Mr. Mahama Ayariga there. I still have Joseph Opoku-Gakpost on standby at the Parliament House. Joseph, so we've heard the explanation that he gives and the way forward as far as his perspective goes. But then the minority seeks to say they did not know that this CI was filed. How is that?
So the argument the minority makes, and particularly Mr. Ayariga makes, is that it's a very separate process in terms of the steps that will lead to the maturing of this particular CI, and if someone wants to pull brakes on the CI. So we all just waiting. It's likely that in the next 3 weeks or so, the counting will be done in order for this particular document to mature. And the argument the minority makes is there is no alternative way around getting any amendments or pulling brakes on this particular CI, apart from moving a motion on the floor for that to be debated and approved. And in fact, Gifty, the fact that Mr. Ayariga has served notice that he will file this particular motion doesn't mean this is a motion that will be heard. It will go through a whole lengthy process. You will see on the document with the motion that he's filed that this is actually something that was filed on the 19th of May. Now what we gather is that the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu himself, submitted this particular document on behalf of Mr. Ayariga and the minority to the table office and the Speaker's office here in Parliament. Now what we're waiting for is that the Speaker needs to admit this particular motion and agree that this is something that he wants to be heard on the floor. A date will be fixed. Mr. Ayariga will be given the opportunity to move the motion on the floor. MPs will debate it both on the majority and the minority side. And this motion only becomes approved after it's gotten the support of more than 2/3 of the members of Parliament. So it's a very complicated process. It's possible the Speaker may decide not to admit the motion, and what that will mean is that it will not be moved on the floor of Parliament at all, or even after it's admitted and it's moved, then the House may vote against it. So the minority MPs are indicating that they are clear in their minds on what the processes are, and anyone challenging the process that they're seeking to use to get this particular approval and rejection done virtually doesn't know what he or she is talking about.
Okay, so let's look at the two things that are the possible consequences, right? So let's begin with the CI itself. What more do we know about it in terms of the content, the details, and what it will do apart from stopping people from using the voter's ID card to re-register, if you like, so to speak?
Gift, if I got your question clear, you'd want to understand what are the other points contained in this particular CI that's actually been laid in Parliament. And it's actually a very brief document, just about 2 pages, and it makes the point that it actually has to do with the registration of new voters. First of all, just to be clear, one additional indication and clarification we're getting is that if even this CI doesn't mature, the EC can go ahead and do any registration that they want to do, except that it would have to be based on the existing constitutional instrument, which lays out the documents that can be used for any registration, and that includes old voters' ID cards as well as birth certificates, apart from the passport and also all of that. And the old CI doesn't make provision for the use of the Ghana card if you would want to register for the new voters' ID card. And so the simple amendment that is being sought to the electoral laws per this constitutional instrument is that when any registration of voters need to be done, then 2 primary documents: either you show up with the Ghana card, which the NIA is registering people so that then they can hold, or you show up with a passport. Or if you don't have any of the 2 documents, then you need to get people who have already registered to then show up and come and serve as witnesses, and to witness the documents and claim that they know that you are a Ghanaian and that you should be able to get on the register. Those are the only 3 possible ways of getting onto whatever new register that would eventually be done, beyond which it will not be possible for anyone to get into the register. And for the minority, they think this will disenfranchise a lot of Ghanaians, although if you don't have any of these primary cards, you can still do so with others testifying for you, and that's why they are really objecting to it.
Thank you, Joseph. But is there anything else that happened in Parliament today that we should know following yesterday's mass sample taking? But Joseph, I was just asking if there is anything else happening in Parliament today that we need to know after yesterday's mass sample taking for COVID-19.
So today the testing has actually been ongoing right in the basement area here in Parliament. Other MPs and staff of Parliament have actually been going in order to get their samples taken. We've gotten the notification, Gifty, and you were asking about this yesterday, that for the members of the Parliamentary Press Corps, tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, they can also show up in order to get their samples taken, even as the testing processes unfold. So we're looking forward to that's happening tomorrow. But on the floor of Parliament itself, there's been a statement earlier today by George Anda, who is an MP and also Deputy Communications Minister, calling on Ghanaians to pay attention to happenings on the road and on all stakeholders in the road sector to take the necessary steps and make the necessary efforts to make our roads safe, so that then there are not cases of people dying as a result of road accidents. And in the course of making that statement, which saw contributions from other members of Parliament, Mr. George Anda commended the multimedia group for the Arrive Alive campaign and the impact that has made in terms of ensuring that Ghanaians adhere to various safety measures on the road, so there isn't a case of people dying as a result of road accidents. And so the Arrive Alive campaign has been receiving some commendation from the members of Parliament, and they are encouraging Ghanaians and drivers to stay safe on the road so they will be able to arrive alive.
Certainly, we all must arrive alive as we fight this pandemic. Joseph, thank you. I look forward to that mass testing as well of Parliamentary Press Corps. Joseph Opoku Gakpo is our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, joining me live from Parliament. I'm going to take a very quick break, but most of you have been sending your messages on the stories that we've done so far. We've been looking mainly at the coronavirus pandemic and what it's doing at the moment. You've been sending your comments on that, whether we're even ready to ease the restrictions, including going back to school. This one is from Mutawakilu. He says it is in an attempt to deal with congestion in our public schools, the government should not not only partner but empower private schools, basic and second cycle schools to absorb some of the students in the public schools. It will also be an excellent means of creating employment and enhancing quality education in Ghana. I did ask you to send your thoughts on how you think we can live the new normal. This is an idea that's coming up. So finally, let me take this one. It says, for schools to reopen, he says, I have 3 suggestions. Let me see. Government or provide a reasonable capacity structure in all schools for quarantine when cases are detected in schools, and teachers waiting for health experts to convey to the designated isolation centers promptly. All students be boardinized under the care of school authorities, no day students for obvious reasons, and government to provide standard PPEs for teaching and non-teaching staff. From David from South Dai. Thank you for sending in that message. Your thoughts on your suggestions on how we can live the new normal. For example, go to school, even in COVID-19. I'll take a very quick break. When I return, I'll talk to you about our prisons and coronavirus. Now, you know the extent of overcrowdedness in our prisons. So how do we handle an outbreak over there? Well, one prison in Ashaiman, for example, has recorded about 9 positive coronavirus cases. One also in Pong has 1 case. That's making it 10. How do we deal with this? When I return from this break, that's what I'm talking about. Do stay. Welcome back to the show, and many thanks for staying with us. Now, even as government shows optimism over the COVID-19 situation, there is a source of worry for officials of the Nsawam medium security prisons. They fear a positive case at the facility will spell doom as they struggle to practice social distancing due to overcrowding there. Public Relations Officer of the Nsawam prisons, DSP Ademo Abdul Latif, tells JoyNews prison facilities in the eastern region have only been given 20 thermometer guns to share among themselves, a situation he believes could militate against their efforts in the fight against COVID-19. He spoke to JoyNews' Kwesi Parker-Wilson.
The issue of social distancing is really a very difficult issue in prisons, especially in the medium security prison in Nsawam, because as of today, we have over 3,000 inmates in our custody, as against the original capacity of about 800. So you can guess the rate of overcrowding in the facility. So talking about social distancing, I would say it's close to impossible here. It's close to impossible? Yeah, it's close to impossible in the prison here. So the only form of... Their lives, they are not. They are not. That is why we have decided to put in place all mechanisms to make sure that the virus, we don't record a case here. So clearly when you came, you can see the measures we have put in place. We have medical personnel outside who check your temperature, will check your temperature, will ask you of your traveling history, etc., just to make sure you don't meet the case definition before you are given access to the facility. And God being so good, these measures we have put in place has helped to the extent that as we speak, we have not recorded any case of COVID-19 in the prison.
I see, but with the kits for thermometer guns and all that, are we sufficient enough to check the inmates and those who come in?
Yes, we have some amounts of thermometer guns and other kits, but they cannot be sufficient. They are not sufficient. I granted the interview earlier on, and I mentioned to them that we have about 20 thermometer guns. But the 20 thermometer guns is not for only in Nsawam, it's for the whole region. For the whole region. Yes, we have other prisons. Koforidia is there. So clearly it tells you that it's not enough. It tells you it's not enough. So it is against this background that we are calling on the civil society, organizations and other philanthropic individuals to come to our aid. To come to our aid in assisting us to get some of these items, like thermometer guns, hand washing soaps, hand sanitizers, Veronica buckets, etc., etc., so that we can make sure with these things that the virus actually doesn't get into the prison, because when it does, the consequences will be very, very...
Right. And for you, would you say that it would be prudent for the Ghana health officials to come and do mass testing for the inmates?
Well, it is not up to me to say that. I think it's something that our directors, together with them, will take a decision on that.
So, has a decision been taken? Let's find out. Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Prison Service, Superintendent Courage Achem, joins me with more. Sir, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. And my first question is, what is the plan to decongest the prisons? I mean, 3,000 as against 800 capacity. We're looking at 2,200 of excess here. What is the plan?
Thank you very much for having me. Let me say that, well, there have been measures to decongest our prisons, but I must say that all those measures can only bring full impact in the long term. But if you are asking for the short term, I must say that it's a bit difficult for me to come out with a measure that can quickly reduce our numbers, which are in excess of 4,000. Probably some, pardon or amnesty granted to some inmates, as the president earlier did some few months ago, a month ago, I must say. Maybe that can be.
Looks like the technology there, but we'll certainly raise him back on the line to get what the COVID-19 plan, let me put it that way, because for a cell that can take 800, that is now taking over 3,000. I even put the excess at 2,200, but he says it's about 4,000 of them. It's a very worrying situation, but I've got back the prison's spokesperson, Public Relations Officer for the Ghana Prison Service, Courage Achem, who joins me once again. So you were talking about the long-term efforts. Actually, I was looking at the plan in these COVID-19 times, because we know that the number of people in the cells, is just overwhelming. But there's COVID-19. Is there a plan at this point as to how to deal with this situation?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. There is a plan to deal with or manage the situation in our prisons within the context of COVID-19. But those plans are not meant to decongest the prisons. But as you may be aware, the Prison Administration, right from the word go, put in place some measures, first and foremost, to ensure that we do not record any cases. And then also, we would have very much wished that within this COVID period, there wouldn't be any of our members of society going into crime and therefore finding themselves in prison. But unfortunately, that is not the case, and therefore we continue to receive new admissions. And therefore, the Prisons Administration, in conjunction with key stakeholders within the criminal justice system, has designated some 7 key selected prisons for the admission of fresh inmates, just so that we do not stand the risk, or at least we minimize the risk of contaminating the larger inmate population.
Okay, so you have designated 7 prisons for admission of inmates who test positive for coronavirus?
Not for those who test for positive for coronavirus, for all fresh admissions right from the court.
Okay, so which are these?
And so the prisons across the country have been zoned into 7. If you permit me, I may like to mention the zones to you.
Yeah.
We have the Southern Zone 1, which is made up of Eastern, Greater Accra, and Central regions. Southern Zone 2, made up of Western North regions. Middle Zone 1, made up of Ahafo, Bono East regions. Middle Zone 2, made up of Ashanti region. And then the Volta Zone, made up of Volta and Woti regions. Northern Zone 1, made up of Northern, Northeast, Savannah, Upper East regions, and Northern Zone 2, made up of Upper East region. And so these are the zones that are have designated prisons purposely meant within this period for fresh admissions.
Okay, so these zones, if you can break it down for us further, okay. What are they, and where are they, if I may ask?
They are in the various regions. At the moment, I would prefer not to mention out the specific prisons designated within these zones, but they are known to our colleagues within the justice system. Okay. We have the criminal justice administration system, the police are aware, the judiciary are aware, and should anybody be brought to any or admitted in any prison custody, and the family members whom the person himself agrees to be informed will be appropriately informed.
Okay, let's talk about Ashaiman. For example, today Ashaiman not today actually, I think last week, Ashaiman recorded 9 cases. They took some samples and did the test. 9 of them have confirmed positive, 1 in Bong. For prisons, I mean, for cells like that, is there also a plan? Is that part of your plan?
Thank you. Let me say that Ashama, as it were, we do not have any prison facility there. And so if you're talking of any inmates around Ashama or within Ashama, then you might probably be talking of a police cells. Right. And therefore, I think that the police will be in a better position to speak to that. Right, right. I get you. So far, none of your prison inmates have tested positive. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we would have wished that to be the case, but unfortunately, no. We have 1 case recorded in the central region, specifically in the Ankafo Maximum Security Prison. It was an inmate that was recently brought. There was a little bit of miscommunication, and therefore, there was a test conducted by the, that was supervised or, at the instance of the police. But then the results were not in, and they were brought into our custody. And then a few days later, the police informed us that 1 of them tested positive. But as I mentioned earlier, the prison administration put in place the mechanism to ensure that new admissions are, screened and then quarantined for 14 days. And so within this period, the inmate who tested positive was not added to the larger population. In fact, Maximum Security Prison Ankafo is one of the prisons that is not congested. As we speak, it has a capacity of 2,000, and as we speak, we have less than 1,000 inmates there. And so the prison administration, right from the admission of these fresh inmates, isolated them for observation, and therefore when this came, it didn't pose much problem for us. I must say that the prison administration, together with the Central Regional COVID Task Force, is managing this inmate in our facility. A lot of people have said it's only a matter of when and not if, as far as how widespread this infection goes. But we've been speaking to people in Sawam prisons, for example, and they're complaining about thermometers, thermometer guns that they need to at least check. It's not foolproof, but at least they can use that to check the temperature of the people that come in. They don't have it. They don't have enough. What is the plan to deal with that as well? Yes, that is a big challenge we have. We do not have enough of the PPEs, especially the thermometer guns. And that is why the few we have, we are trying to make do with. But I must also say that it will be useful if the public-spirited individuals, corporate bodies will come to our aid and supply us with some of these PPEs. So everybody is talking about PPEs. I don't know what the allocation to the prison service has been. Are you getting your supplies from government, or do you have to self-finance, or are you relying on donation? How are you getting PPEs? We got a few from government through the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Interior. But as I said, they are not enough. And then we have also gotten support from some corporate bodies, some individuals, some NGOs. But the fact remains that many of these items are also consumables. And so you bring them today, due to our sheer numbers, tomorrow it is finished. And so we keep finding ourselves in need. So the prison service is still in need of PPEs and some of these things that Exactly so.
Required in these times. Well, if you're listening, perhaps you want to reach out to the prison service and help them with some of these. But sir, thank you very much. We'll be coming to you as and when it becomes necessary. We thankfully, this one person who was positive didn't get to mix up with the other inmates. But did you do any contact tracing, you know, with this officers who may have come into contact with this person?
Yes, thank you very much. About 12 officers got into contact or were exposed during the admission process, and therefore all these officers have been tested, and they are, at the moment they are on self-isolation, and we are awaiting the results. And
do these self-isolations, how do they impact your ability to work? I mean, you are dealing with a huge number, so you require officers to be able to keep the people in check. With about 12 of them gone, how do you manage?
Well, it's a challenge, but as we've been trained to always improvise and be able to perform as it is, no matter the situation, the prison administration has put in place measures, and we are making do with the numbers we have, and we don't have a challenge.
I hear you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. Superintendent Courage Achem. There is a public relations officer for the Ghana Prison Service joining us. If you just heard what he said, some 12 officers, 12 prison officers have been exposed and are on self-isolation. One person or one inmate was tested positive to coronavirus, but thankfully he hadn't been mixed, you know, with the entire inmate, and so he has also been on treatment. But they need PPEs and they're calling for help. So the Tema Regional Police Commander, DCOP Akrofi Oyurifi Edward Johnson, says that police there are in court to seek direction for handling 9 inmates who have tested positive for COVID-19. 9 inmates at Ashaiman and 1 other at Spong police cells last week tested positive. Since then, some steps have been taken to reduce the spread. DCOP Oyurifi disclosed this when Zoom Lion Ghana Limited disinfected some of the stations.
At the personnel, we have not recorded any positive results so far. But with the image, we recorded 9 in Ashama cells and 1 at Boom. So they were remand and then convict prisoners. But the other inmates tested negative. And we have taken it upon ourselves to move motion at the cost, for the cost to direct them, for them to be kept at isolation centers for their treatment. We have started the process. With the one, this in the court has given the directives. So it's been taken to Ashama. And as I'm speaking to you now, Ashama people, they are in court to move the motion. But those who tested negative, they have been transported to this Anchor for prisons, which is a designated prison for that matter.
Some commanders in the Greater Accra region say they are no longer detaining persons who commit minor offences as a way to minimize the spread of coronavirus in their cells. Speaking to the media in separate interviews during a Zoom Lion COVID-19 disinfection exercise of police stations and schools, they stated that they're also not allowing outsiders to have contact with persons in their cells, whilst also ensuring strict adherence to all health protocols.
Recorded some COVID cases in our police stations. So the Zoom Lion company is going to fumigate all our barracks and our living accommodations. So please grant them access and assist them to keep all of us safe.
That's the Ashanti Regional Deputy Commander, ACP David Ajiman Ajem, addressing personnel of the service before the disinfection exercise.
Okay.
Then the disinfection started with separate teams moving out to various police stations.
The vehicles you see leaving these premises, we are doing over 150 police stations and barracks across the Ashanti region. So these teams that are moving are going to other police stations and other barracks. So the disinfection exercise combines with a fumigation exercise in the various barracks, which will be targeting rodents and other pests. But for COVID-19, we are doing all the police stations across the Ashanti region. So we'll be starting from the central police station. We'll go to the headquarters. We'll be going to offices and all that to be able to start the disinfection. The disinfection exercise has started right here at the central police headquarters. And as you can see, they are disinfecting tables, disinfecting drawers, disinfecting every surface that is constantly touched by both personnel of the Ghana Police Service and suspects and other people who are brought in here on a daily basis.
The team was at the Ridge police station.
The personnel of Zoom Lion are now entering and getting into the cells to do the disinfection of the cells as well.
The railways and Zongo police stations were also covered. The streets were not left out. Philip Yabua Asante is with Zoom Lion Ashanti region.
We are fumigating and disinfecting 158 police facilities within the region. And we're going to use 5 days for this exercise.
Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah reiterated his resolve to ensure strict enforcement of wearing of face mask.
Let's wear our face mask. It's mandatory, please. It's mandatory. It's not optional. Anybody caught in public place without wearing face mask is given an instant social work to do, either cleaning, desalting of gutters or whatever, or picking of litters.
Reporting for JoyNews, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi.
Well, here is a report by Maxwell Agbaba on a similar story.
The team of sprayers here disinfected the barracks here at the Dansoman police station and also the cells here. We've been speaking to Commander of the Dansoman Divisional Command, Superintendent DJ Dakon, and he says that they've put in place measures to ensure that the cells here are not crowded. He also has been discounting some rumors making the round that some persons in the cells here have tested positive for the coronavirus.
Not all cases. We don't detain people in all cases. Some of the cases, when they come, we make sure we take statement, we take witness statement. If there is evidence, we go to court immediately for the court to decide. If there is no evidence, we grant bail for people to go home, because we have all the officers, including.
I'm going to take a very quick break here. I'll return shortly. When I come, I'll tell you other things, including the outlook of Jamestown, a day, if you like, more than 24 hours after that massive demolition there that's caused a lot of people to be homeless. We'll take a look at that when we return. You're welcome back. Many residents of Jamestown say they have lost their homes and also fear losing their source of livelihood as of the second day of demolition continued to make way for the construction of the Jamestown Fishing Harbour. Churches, public toilets were not spared in the Thursday morning exercise. One of the people affected is 26-year-old mother of 4, Mary Ayi. Maxwell Agbaba has more from Jamestown.
Lord, you know, ni wakatuni, ni wafashika, ni wakabahi or loe, ni washan, ni wakayajano, ni wahon, ni wanaiko, Wake ha wo bi na make ya sukun. E da ke tutuku ake wole nyo bi ya sukun. Shi bia ne domochi ne ya ko sukun dan. E wo mi fe ya ke ni ya ko sukun dan so ni bi ke na bi fe aya sukun. E wo lo ne no jino ni wo shan. Ni wo ne ko ni wo ke ko ngbe bi na make ya sukun. Ni bia ne ko to akomoko lo. No ka o kan shan lo. Na ba kumo bia ne fe ke wole nyu eje ba na mo e ba hon lo ha. Na mo wole nyu e ba hon lo ha ya ke bia na mo ko nya ka fe mi. Ne ka ho e ka shan lo. Ke nyu mo ba ngo ba domo. Akumo no fia no se bita flat ti afipo ni wo nya ya mi mpo akumole. Ena ajuo he ye akumole. Eni wo fo nu ye akumole. Afite no fia no e wo bia na e won chake mi na hi. Alo wo ye ni wo yo no kun mi ni baba.
When President Akufo-Addo cut sod for the construction of the Jamestown Fishing Harbour, he stated that this project has been on the drawing board since 1965. He also mentioned that there have been 5 different sod cutting ceremonies just to see this project start, but it did not happen. So in 2018, during the sod cutting ceremony, he promised the people that they'll see the fishing harbour here. But not many of the residents here are happy and enthused about this new development here. They are raising concerns about losing their source of livelihood and their homes. I've been speaking to the acting chairman of the Asiedu Keteke South Metro, Raymond Tete, and he has been telling me that this project has numerous benefits for residents and the community itself.
We started with the demolition yesterday, but we didn't complete. So we have to come and continue today. Because our role is to clear everything here, in exception of the Gulf filling station. The Gulf filling station.
Okay.
So that is the only thing we are going to leave now. But apart from the Gulf filling station, we have to clear every structure here for them so that they take over completely and start their work.
Okay. I see hundreds of people, gathered here. I want to find out how many people are affected by this demolition exercise.
We have not taken the building to know the number, but we are dealing with structures. And we've counted about 400 structures that we have cleared from this place. So we are supposed to clear from this place. And I believe since the fishermen are still here, definitely we are going to see people around. But we are preparing a place for the fishermen to move them to that place for the meantime. So when we move, I think everybody will live here so that they can have the peace to do their work. 1965, the arbor used to be here. However, Nkrumah wanted to redevelop it, but he was having challenge with the community members. He wanted to relocate them to other places, but they didn't allow that. So he has to move to Tema and go and do it at Tema. Okay. And you could also, when the president was giving his State of the Nation address, that was this year, he mentioned in it that the contractors will come to site by March. But because of the COVID-19, that has delayed a bit. But now that the tension has come down a bit, we have come here about a month ago, led by the Deputy Minister for Transport, to hand over the site to the Chinese. All that they are waiting is that we should come and clear the site for them so that they start the work. So I can assure you that they are here with us, waiting for us to finish what we are doing so that they take over. So quickly, when we finish, they will take over and start doing their work.
The story of 26-year-old Mary Ai mirrors that of many of the residents here. A lot of them say Jamestown, specifically this community, is their source of livelihood. This is where they get fish, sell fish, and make money out of the fish that they sell. And this is where they rest when they are tired.
Please, Akufo-Addo, we are begging you. We know that this one is not politics, but we are begging you. This is where we get our lunch here. We chop, everybody, me like this, I've born them 3, and if this one had 4 picking, this is here I work here, and we feed our children. Why? If right now you have come and scatter here, what should we do? We don't have any job to do. To me like this, I don't have any job. I just clean fish and I get food to eat. So right now we have come and destroy it. How are we going to eat? How are we going to feed our children? We beg, oh, we beg. We are suffering. We are suffering, pa. We are suffering.
But wait, they are saying that if they build a harbour for you, this place will become a better place than.
If they build the harbour for us, where are we going to? Are they going to find some place? Because this the boys, the fish sellers, the men, the front our market from us. Me like this, we sit front and we saw that. So all the customers have gone back. So that if they do this album for us, are you going to sell this fish? Or at the market are going to come out? They're going to the beach to go and buy the fish there. Because we don't have anything to do right now. We are suffering. So how are we going to sell our fish?
But one of the buildings affected by the demolition exercise is an orphanage which was located right here. We are told that the orphanage had become a safe place for some of the children here in this community, but it was not spared. It was demolished yesterday, and even now you could still see some of the learning materials that the children use here at this place.
This Jamestown, we there here long times. They want me for here. They come here first time. They say they go the machine here. Yes, they come and Kufuor can bring blocks. You don't do anything. Your mama bring another thing. You don't do anything. But if they come, they say they want to do this consequence. They want it. If they come, they don't do anything for us. No, if they come, no, every election, no, they say they want. They want to come demolish here. Why? We don't understand. Because our mothers, our children, we get something with the chop. If we hear they work, you understand. But the thing they are doing, we don't understand them. Why right now they cancel? Why the demolition they cancel? They say they cancel. They come there. They say they are making card. 1 city, 10 city. They get. Well, right now they make the card go. Right now we go where? Right now we go wire. We go fire. Gameo yeka waloko do yeka waloko ebie. Akamo wire. Agba sister sana. Agba wa mimana. Bien no watch money here. What to ebie? Enyama mokola. Benyama mokola ni maju. Integration. Obe ma also here.
My name is Bishop Nunu.
Bishop Nunu, okay, you have a...
I'm the head bishop in this place.
Which church is that?
Everlasting Healing Chapel of Jesus Chapel.
Okay, you are holding a Bible and just a gun. Why?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm finished everything. I'm sorry. I cannot say anything. I have lived everything for God. I'm sorry.
Gentleman, you just saw in your shot, he's the head pastor of the church that has just been demolished. And like I mentioned earlier, all this, the social amenities, the toilets, the schools here have all been demolished, and this church has also been affected. But the brethren, the man I spoke to, he's the head pastor of the church. He says that he's not picking anything from here. He would only pick his cassock and then his Bible. And he's not ready to talk to us. He said he's leaving everything to God. I've also been speaking to the chief fisherman of the Jamestown community, Ni Amawulu. He says the Jamestown Fishing Project has enormous benefits for this community, and it is important for the people who live here to allow the construction to begin. He's not excited about some resistance to the project. He says the long-term benefits will be there for all to see.
All the previous governments, normally Rollins came with the same idea, he couldn't fulfill it. Kufuor came, he also came and break things like this, he couldn't do anything. And Atamis came, he also came with the same idea, the same people, he couldn't make it. And this time, Kufuor too has come. This is the second time the demolition has taken place. And we are expecting that they will do the best this time. Because this time it has been a very huge one. Formerly it was just a single one that they've been demolishing, just a mere one over there. But this time they have taken a long queue. So I think this time it's going to happen. This thing that we are expecting, the arbor that we are expecting,
it's not going to happen. That's our hope, because it's getting to election. And normally that's what they do. When it comes to election time, then they will come with it, demolishing things and promising that they will do something better. So this time we'll be expecting. We will be deeply concerned about this, because this time they are making it very huge that they demolish. We'll be expecting it very huge.
Maxwell Agbagba filed that report from Jamestown, and we've been following up on what they're doing now that their homes have been taken away from them, especially in COVID-19. This is still the Pulse with me, Gifty and Opia. Let's do Frontline. On Frontline today, we put the spotlight on a laboratory technician at the Mamobi Government Hospital who braved the odds and joined his fellow colleagues to take samples of suspected COVID-19 cases when Ghana began recording cases of the disease back then. Roland Serbo tells Hannah Odami how his wife reacted to his decision and how life has been for him since he took the first sample.
Today on Frontline, we are putting the spotlight on lab technicians. They are the ones who take the blood samples of suspected COVID-19 patients to the testing centers for them to ascertain whether it's positive or negative. We are here at the Mamobi Government Hospital to speak to the general manager of the lab services here. Roland, how are you?
Good.
Great. Take us through to what you do here.
Okay. This is Mamobi General Hospital.
Okay.
And this is our OPD. This is where we normally register our cases. When clients come, they first of all sit down here. We sometimes give them a talk in the morning on COVID-19 and any new thing that happening. So they are registered, and then from there, we usher them to the sample taking place. So at the end of the day, there are some that we have to do microscopic examination, and this is the bench for microscopy that we work on the samples.
Yeah. So from here, where do we go next?
From here, the results will go inside for it to be tabulated. Another one running a full blood count test on a patient. Each patient can be running series of tests, so we do the test in batches.
So prior to COVID-19, you were doing the general lab testing. Do you continue that, or your place is now specifically for COVID-19 suspected cases?
Okay, we still continue with our general routine laboratory test. But what makes us come on board with the COVID-19 is the fact that we were called upon to start taking sample for the clients who had been suspected of having COVID-19. So some of us decided to courageously step forward, and then we were made to take samples at the hotels so that they could be tested at Noguchi. From there, every time there's a suspected case in-house in Mamobi General Hospital, the client is confined at a specific location, and we are called upon to take sample to be sent to Noguchi for it to be tested.
Can you readily remember the number of positives you have seen?
Actually, there have been some positive, but I can't really remember. I have to go through the data to be able to remember. I think it is part of the national data that you people are hearing.
And in your statement, you said courageously stood out to be part of the national team taking the samples. How has this, how did you decide to do that?
Well, psychologically, I might say that this is a good opportunity to speak about this. Initially, when my wife got to know that I have stepped forward to take sample, she was very, very much disturbed, because all the things we are seeing on telly, Italy and other countries, people dying, she was like, why will you do that? So I had to psychologically psych her up that this is my profession. And the day I decided it was simple. If I don't do it, then who will do it? And if we don't do it, and the client or the patient or the suspected cases get into the community, and the community spread becomes so much, and people are infected, then I have failed as a medical lab scientist. So that was what informed me to step forward and put my life on the line. And wearing those jackets wasn't easy. You could sweat. You could see that you are sweating. Water will be dripping out of you. And you have to do it until you are done with every case.
So looking back now, what is your assessment of what you did, that decision you took?
I am very, very happy. I'm very glad I took that bold decision, because I can say that what I did is part of the nation being mentioned elsewhere internationally. My small contribution has really helped to identify those who are at risk or those who are positive so that they can be taken out of the population.
Okay. So you do take samples to Noguchi, right?
Yes.
Where exactly do you take the samples?
We take the sample at the restricted area.
The triage.
The triage.
Okay, I saw some.
Yes, please. So you could see that there's a tent there. Yeah. So when there's a suspected person, the person is kept there. So we go in there to take the sample. So that's how it has been.
So knowing that such a person that you have isolated to have his or her samples taken to Noguchi, that person may already be going through some anxiety. When you are taking the swab and you are doing all of that, do you have a chat with them? How do you take them through so that it is a smooth process for the patient?
Yes, that is one thing. In the taking of the sample, you need to add a little bit of humor to it. You don't just go and say that, hey, get up, I want to take your throat swab, and then you start putting things there. You have to console the person. Oh, madam, I'm coming to take your sample. I'm going to use this to take a throat swab. It's not going to be that painful. I'm a professional, so I'll do it in such a way that you're not going to go through anything like vomiting. Trust me. I build confidence with the clients. So at the end of the day, there is a small smile. There was one lady at the ward when I was going to take the sample. She said she will not allow anybody to take the sample. Then I asked the mother, is she the last born? The mother said, yes. I said, you brought a last born here and you didn't tell us to pamper her. Everybody stop disturbing her. I'm going to buy toffee for her. I'll make sure. She was an ugly person. I'll make sure. Then I told her, please don't mind anybody who is not trying to treat you well. Then I just went down to talk to her gradually. Then I realized that with time she was responding and we were able to take the sample. Those are some of the things we do just to win them for the sample to be taken.
So has your wife gradually accepted what you are doing so far, and how is she dealing with you in the house? Does she still come close?
In fact, not yet. It's such that she's also educated, so it's like, you doing this, can you stay a little bit? Can you practice the social distance
in the house?
Distances in the house. Make sure you don't come too close. The moment you try to clear your throat, please, please, please. So, but on a lighter note, it has been a worth journey going, and she has been there to support me in everything I do.
So
yes.
Are the children there?
Yes, so I have two kids, a girl and a boy.
And how are the children also warmed up to what Daddy is doing?
Surprisingly, they listen to the news all the time. So they give me updates. So they sometimes lecture, when you come from work, they tell you that, Daddy, you are not supposed to come into the house without changing. So please go and change and bath before we can touch. So they will tell you even before you come into the house. So I think with that, we have a good rapport.
Okay, so yes. Then if you don't mind, mention their names and say whatever you want to tell them.
Wow, my boy is Elon Brian Strigbo. My girl is Kiba Aram Strigbo, and my wife is Rita Strigbo. I just want to tell them that it wouldn't have been okay without them. I cherish them, and it is them that give me strength to carry on. And for the support they are giving me, I say thank you to them.
Okay. Yeah. Based on that, can you tell us how your life has changed with regards to COVID-19 and you stepping up to be one of those who take the samples?
My life has changed. One of the changes I've realized is that I have gone to a level of where people do not want to get to. So after taking those samples at the hotels and other places, it has really boosted my confidence. Now, every time I'm seeing a COVID-19 patient, I don't see them to be a threat. All I need to do is to be well prepared. My dressing should be on point. I should be safety-wise prepared. And then I know that I'm good to go. So they don't really post, because initially the first sample I took, I was really judged. It wasn't easy.
After 14 days,
I'm telling you, I was still checking. I had to check my COVID test. And when the test came and he said negative, I'm like, wow, thank you, God. So I think it has been a booster, and it has taken me to another level in my practice.
I realize that you work with a very formidable team here. You kept mentioning them. What would you say to your team members?
My team members, where are they? Please come. Please come. Please come.
And there they are, coming from their holes.
This is Victoria.
Okay, great. So tell me a little about COVID-19 and how it's also made you change what you do differently.
Yeah, it's things have changed a bit because now our dressing and everything has changed. Yeah.
Are you afraid?
At first I was, but now not anymore.
Hello, Aisha. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
Good. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for what you are doing. Have you also gone outside there to take any samples yet?
Not yet. Not yet.
You see your colleagues go and come. Do you move away from them when they come?
Not at all. At least we give them moral support.
Lydia goes to the community to take some samples. And Lydia, yes. How many have you taken so far?
I can't count. Yeah, many. Yeah, quite a lot.
At the point where you are taking a sample and to the end, what goes through your mind, you know?
Oh, nothing really, because when I'm taking the sample, I make sure I wear my PPEs all the time. So I'm taking care of myself and I take the sample, knowing that I'm helping the person because we are doing the test to help the person.
So describe yourself in one way as you help this national cause.
Proud that I've been taken as one of the frontliners, helping the people.
Very transforming piece of work put together by Hannah Odami. Thank you to all of you once again. And a member of Parliament for Asin Central, Kenneth Japan, has defended his recent attacks on founder of International Gospel Church, Bishop Daniel Obinim. Mr. Japan says his mission is to expose fake pastors who have taken advantage of innocent Ghanaians and are living lavishly off their sweat. Bishop Daniel Obinim is still in custody after failing to meet his bail requirement. He was charged with the offences of publication of false news and forgery of documents contrary to sections 208 and 159 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act 1960, respectively, and Act 29, respectively. Kenneth Japan has been speaking to JoyNews' Mamavi Owusu-Abuaje in a yet-to-be-aired interview.
Why would I target churches? Why would I target pastors? You didn't use the right word for pastors. You should have used the word fake. Fake pastors. Not all pastors are fake. No, I wouldn't stand here and say that. There are genuine ones. But there are fake ones, like Obinim, like Bedukobi. I can talk about these two people because I've done the investigation and have a lot of evidence against them. Okay? You see, I'm going to take another video of Obinim to Yoko. He was bragging, saying that he has bought property. I know he's bragging. He doesn't even have it. I bought a house, 166 rooms in America. There's no house in America that has 166 rooms. But where he will have a problem is, in his own mouth, he said he transfers the money. Okay? That will land him into trouble.
Why are you targeting him? What has he done to you?
The word is not target. He went out there to brag that he would put his priesthood or whatever aside and deal with me for a whole year. And I enjoy that. I enjoy that. I like people who are bold like that. So, is it a target? He sent his missiles, these young men going on radio, television, insulting me, but I'm focused. Have 1,001 evidence against him. After the police, Yoko will come in too. Because I've sent the people there, they've investigated the transfers. He puts money in people's account and he transfers to Spain. That is money laundering. It's also coming up. I am not going to rest. And I've gotten involved because in the course of my investigation, I've seen that he has done harm to a lot of innocent people in this country. And I have to let Ghanaians know.
Kennedy Japan there, and that's still a developing story. We've been in touch with the CID. We're meant to speak to them, but we're unable to reach them at this point. But we'll be wrapping up and do Let's Talk Showbiz. But some of you have been commenting on the stories that we've done so far. Take a few of those messages. This one says, Gifty, do you remember the Supreme Court ruled against the use of NIA card and its eligibility for Ghana's voter registration in the case of Abu Ramadan and Electoral Commission? These people still have their names in EC system but cannot vote because their names are not in the final register. Your name is Openikese in Kumasi, the full name I cannot mention. Okay, this one has a suggestion. It says, Abel from Wase Kropon, I think government should allow the upper primary to university students to return to school by wearing of masks and social distancing. The question is, how are we doing so far with the social distancing protocols? And finally, Rich from Riamwase says, we are appealing to the government to put good measures in place to reopen the schools because it is not well with we, the private school teachers. There is more news at myjoyonline.com if you do log on. And scroll all the way down on that page, you see our YouTube link. You want to follow us there, all of our programs can be found there. My name is Gifty Andropia. It's always a pleasure to have you as my guest.